Was that amazing or what? I'm Professor Tony Diaz, a libro traficante. I'm proud to say I'm an English professor at Lone Star College, Houston North. I'm the author of the book, The Tip of the Pyramid, Cultivating Community Cultural Capital. And I'm here because we are one Lone Star College system. And this is the sort of education that I became a professor to make sure that students could engage in. That's why you've got faculty and staff from Lone Star College, University Park, rolling out the red carpet for us. That's why you've got our colleagues coming from all over the system to celebrate a legacy and the future of Latino culture. So thank you so much for coming today. If you're a student, I want you to know you may have woken up today, maybe felt tired, maybe didn't feel powerful, but I want you to know you are among the elite today because you're at an institution that will cater to cultivate the greatness in you, and we demand that you find joy and excitement in education every day. Of course, I'm in the English department, so sometimes you got to learn grammar too, right? But it all adds up. I do want to give a little bit of a context today to what you're experiencing, and of course, at the beginning, you have the future of art and culture. It was Klein Collins Mariachi Tigres, directed by director Carlos Lara. Those are high school students. Man, that was fantastic. We're so proud that they're one of our feeder schools. Additionally, you just saw a part of the legacy of our gente from thousands of years before. Chicua Aztec Dance and Tradition, Directora Alejandra Tapia, and this is part of our legacy as well. Thousands of years. And I will introduce our speakers one by one, but I want you to also know that behind us, we have a powerful mural. It is created by Rigo Miller. It's titled La Basura de la Tempestad, but we want you to experience all facets of art, including the visual arts. And of course, outside, you also see an exhibit of books presented by Nuestra Palabra, Latino writers having their say. I'm happy to be the executive director. We've got Rodrigo Bravo and Clarissa Zubia here from our team. But this is also very, very modern. So this is broadcast right now. This live stream will also air on 90.1 FM KPFT. We'll also prepare a podcast, and portions may appear on fox26houston.com so that you can text your friends later, make them feel jealous, say, look what you missed. You know, here's what I was doing on Thursday afternoon. And of course, there's more, because we want you to know that we're here to make sure that everybody shares their voice. So at the end of today's programming, we invite you to enjoy the cuisine, but stay because you'll see a curated art exhibit. It's curated by a Latino curator, open to all Lone Star College students. And you're going to see some fantastic visual art in the exhibit out there. So thank you so much for joining us today. But I want to make something clear. This is only possible because we've got administrators that are visionary. Not only do they have all the credentials you can imagine, they've got the heart to go above and beyond, not the Call of Duty, what we can imagine. And we're in her castle, so I do want to give her a proper introduction. She is Dr. Virginia Frade. She's the presidenta este campus, and she has nearly 30 years of experience in higher education. She's the first Hispanic female president of Lone Star College, University Park, which is history in the making. She's a presidential fellow for community college excellence at the Aspen Institute. And she made sure that we had a space for this event today. And she made sure that her whole team was behind it. And they did it con todo su corazón. I want to really thank her so much for being the epitome of what it means when one of our own takes the helm. She's making history. She's making us feel at home. Please welcome La Presidenta.
Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. Wow, I am deeply touched by today's celebration and by seeing so many of you come to enjoy this beautiful facility, the Visual and Performing Arts Center at University Park. It is a perfect place to celebrate Latino culture and art. And it is the perfect place to honor our first Latino Chancellor of Lone Star College. Please join me in giving him a big round of applause. In a moment, I'm going to invite Trustee Murillo to come and share a few words. Before I do that, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the visionary leadership of the board that has brought us to this moment. And for that, I am grateful. Thank you, Trustee Murillo, for being here and for joining us for this celebration. You may not know this, but Texas boasts one of the largest community college systems in the country. In Texas alone, we have 50 community college districts. We call ours a system, but there are 50 districts across the state serving roughly about 700,000 students, many of whom are Latino and first generation and low-income students. And we have at the helm here at Lone Star College a chancellor who is leading the largest system in the state of Texas. That is remarkable. This is to be celebrated. And I want to underscore, and this thing is getting in my way. I don't know if I can bring it down, but if you see me going like this, I'm fighting with it a little bit. But let me move it over to the side. At Lone Star College, what it means to be a Latino chancellor means to be a chancellor for every student we enroll, especially for students who are first in family, who are underprepared, who have been historically underserved by legacies of systems of higher education and structures that have not served them well. And so today's celebration marks a major milestone because I believe that you cannot be what you don't see. And so in Chancellor Castillo, we have not only an incredible leader, but somebody who is also a role model to many students who are coming in to our system. No pressure, Chancellor. You know, in working with the cabinet, that the task ahead is huge. It's big. But I am confident that we have the right person to lead us at this moment. And so we celebrate you, Chancellor. And I wish you an incredible tenure and a future of boundless possibilities as our Chancellor here at Lone Star College. Thank you for agreeing to take the charge. And at this moment, I would like to invite Trustee Murillo to the podium.
All right, everyone. How's it going? Everybody okay? That was amazing performance. Thank you so much for making this happen. Tony, you know, man, I've worked with you for years. If you want to, they always say, uh, look for somebody really busy and doing good stuff, fun stuff, and then go there, right? And that's how I see Tony. For years, I mean, used to work at the University of Houston years ago, uh, and then now in my current role at Metro. Anytime there's community engagement, anytime there's some initiative, especially involved cultural or arts, of course, literacy, I call Tony. So thank you, Tony. And of course, Dr. Friday, I can't see. I had the light in my face. There you go. I see you now. Really am happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me. This is, again, the performance is awesome, and I really enjoy this, and I know everybody else does. I just wanted to say a couple of things, about, I'm trustee now for 9 years, currently the vice chair of the board. And I came on with it at the time that Mario stepped up as to become our legal counsel. So I've had a chance to see him in action, and he's impressed me all along. So Mario stepped into this role of chancellor with grace, dedication, and lots of ganas. And ganas means desire, but it's, I would say, roughly defined, because there's so much more to that word. So maybe we have our Spanish language experts in here can explain that to me. But that says a lot about, those of you know what I mean, right? He laid out a vision for Lone Star that is ambitious, positive, and above all, inclusive. Did I mention ambitious? His aspiration for Lone Star College to win the Aspen Prize and be recognized as the top community college in the nation, I was going to say it's crazy, but it's admirable. And I'm so glad we have him, because that's really what, as a board trustee, that's what we look for in a leader. Somebody with a bold vision, commitment, and ganas. Mario's educational journey as a first generation high school, college, and law school graduate, and his rise to become the 5th chancellor of Lone Star College is inspirational indeed. Thanks to his own experiences, Mario sees the potential in every single person. Students, college leaders, teachers, and even board trustees. So I appreciate that. His experiences also afford him a deep understanding of the challenges faced by students. And all you have to do is see his interactions with students on campus, particularly his ability to communicate in Spanish. Certainly creates a welcoming environment for them and a true sense of inclusion, which is critical in higher education. Mario, on behalf of the board, Lone Star College Board of Trustees, and those people we represent, I want to offer congratulations and commend you for always going above and beyond. So we appreciate that. Your leadership is a source of inspiration, and we are excited to continue this journey with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Murillo. He's my buddy, too. He's my boss and my buddy, so it gets complicated. But I do really appreciate Art's commitment to community, because I've seen him rolling up his sleeves at community events, church events, and now that he's in this position, he keeps that connection to the community. As I introduce our Chancellor, I do want to let you know that this is about celebrating arte y cultura with the Chancellor. So after he speaks, we're going to share additional performances by our own faculty, staff, and alums, which is writing that you can actually study and share. And as I bring him up, I also don't want to just read to you what you can Google. If you type in his name, you're going to see a lot of different entries because he is making an impact in history. So I've got to drop a little information that I have exclusively that I want to share. And I do also want to give you some cocktail conversation points because when I say we're making history, Lone Star College, I'm so proud to be part of the system at this moment in history because for the first time in its history, not only do we have a Latino chancellor, we have two Latina presidents. We're in the castle of Presidente Freire. There's also at Kingwood, President Gonzalez. Let's give them a round of applause, both. Additionally, at the Board of Trustees, we have, of course, Trustee Murillo and also Trustee Salazar. Those are two Latinos in that important position as well, which is vital. And we really have some wonderful faculty and staff at all of these campuses. And I'm so proud to be part of that familia. You see some of the products of that today. And I only mention this because we want to make everyone feel at home. And my parents were immigrants. They were very intimidated to go to the school, City Hall, places like this. I'm so happy that we all team up to make what would have been really daunting for my family to make them feel at home and for all families. And that's really what this is about, so that we can all share our voices. And I also want to point out that our chancellor, he talks the talk and walks the walk. So he also purchased copies of books from Mexican-American literature courses that are on display outside. They will form a permanent part of every single Lone Star College library as well. So you'll be able to take those out and share those with you. But also, he is a writer. So he found out that our operations manager for Nuestra Palabra is an aspiring lawyer. So he took her out to lunch, and she found out that he wrote the book, The Employer Mandate, by Mario K. Castillo, Esquire. So now this is part of our book club. So we're starting to read this book as well. But I say that because he has gone to the joyful task. It's hard to write this book as well. And I also, as he comes up, I want to give him a gift. At the last event that we did, La Comunidad Appreciates the Chancellor. It was a community event. There were many folks from all over Houston and the community. And one of them was Professor Guadalupe San Miguel, who teaches at the University of Houston. He was not aware that Lone Star College was making this impact. And when they both spoke, I mentioned Dr. Guadalupe San Miguel's book, Brown Not White, School Integration and the Chicano Movement in Houston, and I wanted to make sure you got that. So please join me in welcoming to the stage someone who is making an impact and I know will shape the future of our city and our state and our nation. Your Chancellor, Mario Castillo.
Good afternoon, everyone. Wow. So I'll tell you that everyone involved in the planning of this knows that I really don't like being the center of attention. It's really hard for me. And it freaks me out to be walking down the hallways and see my picture. And the marketing department did a great job of putting me everywhere. So I've been hiding in my office. I just want to thank everyone who played a part in putting this together. It really is incredibly heartwarming. And that's really sort of one of the first things that I want to talk about is when I became the chancellor, I really underestimated the amount of support and what it meant to people of Hispanic and Latino heritage. I really did underestimate that. There were so many people that came out and voiced their support, and especially in the beginning, like Dr. Freire said during her excellent and heartwarming comments. Thank you, Dr. Freire. It's hard to describe what it's like to wake up one day and be in charge of this whole thing, to be the last signature, to be the person responsible for 7,000 employees and the livelihood that support their family, to be responsible for 80 to 100,000 students. It is an incredible, incredible weight. And it's hard to describe if you've never undergone something like that. And I can say that there were many times where it was the supports of random people that I had never even met that said, it's so great that you made it because you represent all of us. And a lot of times when I've wanted to sort of quit, because there have been times where I thought that perhaps my doubters were right, that this job was too big for me, people have come in and said, it's not just you. And one of the biggest quotes that I always learned, and I learned it at LSC Sci-Fair, is the superintendent said there, when I took over, I realized that the job is too big for me, but it's not too big for us. And that's really true. This job is too big for one person. One person can't do it by themselves, nor should they. And so I really just want to thank everybody who not only came out today, but over the last 7 months that I've been the chancellor, sent me emails, text messages, phone calls, LinkedIn's, all the things, right? Because there are some times when I've received those things and they've been incredibly uplifting, and I'm very, very grateful. And I do want to sort of acknowledge nuestra cultura, que bella, right? Like when you think about like the mariachi, and one thing that I love about music, and by the way, I play trumpet. So the trumpet section of the mariachi, I was like, oh, they're very, very good. And the fact that they're high school students is amazing. That was beautiful. And art is beautiful in a way that sort of words, even as someone who's written a book, that I like to keep a secret for various reasons. But even as someone who has written a book, I can tell you that art, dance, music, it connotes things that words can't. And even as someone has dedicated their lives to sort of finding just the perfect word, there's something that there are emotions and feelings that can't be communicated in written word. You can only feel them. And you can only be triggered to feel those things by music and other forms of art. And just as I sat in the audience listening and watching to the Aztec dance, when you think about sort of that, right? When you think about in 1492, when the Spaniards land in Mexico and they completely essentially eradicate or try to eradicate a several thousand-year-old culture that was really sort of one of the leading cultures in the world. And yet here we are in 2024 and that culture lives on. And it's a really beautiful thing to know that in spite of all of the attempts, both modern and past, to try to wipe out our culture, our identity, nuestra Latinidad, we're still here. And we're here because people value it, people listen to it, people sponsor it, people want to hear the songs, people want to hear the music. Like I can tell you, there's just songs that when you hear them, like I can tell you, as soon as I go to like a Mexican wedding or a quinceañera and I hear the chenta come on, I know it's time to go. Right? Like, and you guys know exactly, see, you don't even have to listen to the song. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? As soon as Vicente Fernandez comes on, it's time to go because it's about to get real, right? And so think about that, right? Like, and I think about that all the time. And our culture is just so beautiful. And there's so many things that I hope as the steward now of this institution to engender in future generations that, listen, our culture is very beautiful. And there are many people that think that, one of the things that I always say, I can't wait for a world where people love our people as much as they love our food. Right? Like, can you imagine if people love Mexican people as much as they love Mexican food? What an amazing world this would be to be living, right? Yeah, margaritas, right? And all of that, which is technically not even Mexican food, it's Tex-Mex. But don't get me started on that. So anyway, one of the things that's really, really important to me as the Chancellor of Lone Star, and like Dr. Ferrer said, and thank you too, Trustee Murillo, because without your vote, I wouldn't be up here, sir. So let's give Trustee Murillo a round of applause. And before I get to that point, let me sort of make a few points. Right? I had a meeting with a professor yesterday, a Latino professor, and he was telling me, he goes, I don't know if I'm making an impact. And I said, what do you mean? You're el profesor, el profe. And for a lot of us that grow up poor, I'm a Pell Grant kid, Upward Bound, trio, the whole 9 yards. I had to choose between sort of feeding myself and going to school. A lot of times, el profe is the very first person that you see that is a person of authority. And when someone who's a professor looks like you, it's so incredibly powerful because you're like, well, wait a minute, that person obviously figured it out. That person became not just a student, but the teacher. And it's a very powerful thing. And even as the chancellor of this institution, there's only so much I can do ensconced in my olive tower, because I was corrected the other day that I'm not in an ivory tower, for the record. Yes, olive tower is what I landed on. I went through several colors, but that's the one that I think got the least amount of grimaces. There's only so much I can do from there, right? And so really it's our faculty and everybody. And let me be really clear. There is a lot of faculty at Lone Star College that I'm very, very proud of. Someone walked up a couple of days ago to me and said, I'm not Latino, I'm not Hispanic, but I want to help these students because they're my students and I care a great deal about sort of doing what they need to get them ahead. And this person was not someone who was Hispanic, didn't speak Spanish, wasn't Latino. And she asked me, she said, what can I do? And I said, to be honest with you, just be an ally. Like, it really is that simple. A lot of times, like, when you don't believe in yourself, having someone believe in you, regardless of where their background is, what their culture is, a lot of us don't have someone like that. And I can tell you that over the years, I've had many allies that were not Hispanic. And I wouldn't be standing up here without them, from the people that took me home when I got kicked out of my house, when I was still in high school, to people that fed me, to my wife who lent me her car so that I could drive around. There's been many people over the years that have been allies that are not necessarily Latino and Hispanic. And that's one of the fundamental things that I want for this institution is, you know, there's a difference between all are welcome and it was built with you in mind. And that's fundamentally what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build an institution that not just all people are welcome, but no matter your origin, no matter your background, no matter where you come from, that you feel like you have a corner of this institution, because it is a vast institution. It is huge. That no matter where you come from, there's someone that looks like you that teaches a class. There's someone that looks and has gone through the background that you have that is an administrator. Because, again, there's a big difference between all are welcome and it was built with you in mind. And to echo on Professor Diaz, I can't get myself to call him Tony. To echo what he said, you know, he touched about something. He said, my parents were really intimidated. And I went to a trio luncheon a few months ago, and one of the parents asked me, you know, what advice, or one of the administrators asked me to help the parents and say, what advice do you have for the parents? And I said, to be honest with you, as a parent, especially as a first generation college student, just showing up, like just being a warm body standing at that counter next to your student will go a long way. I never had that. My parents and I were estranged, and so I basically had to walk up to those counters by myself. And for those of you that work counters, let me tell you, as I've said on LinkedIn, to walk up to one of our counters is an act of courage in a lot of our communities, right? To walk up to a counter and say, how do I get financial aid? You have to admit that you don't have money. To walk into Lone Star College and say, I want more for myself and my family, is to distribute to the world that you are not content with your present circumstances and you want more. And so those things are really, really scary, because it's not cool in middle school and high school to admit that you want more. It's not cool to admit that you don't have money. We're raised to be very proud people that don't ask for help, don't ask for handouts. I can tell you that even today, as the chancellor of this institution, my parents most of the time refuse my help, because they're proud people and they were raised and not asked for help. And so a lot of times they struggle because they're proud, because they don't want my help. And they tell me, like, I came to this country so that you could get the thing, not so that you could help me get something. And think about what a great heritage that is and a legacy that they lead to me. And so a lot of times people ask me what motivates me. I truly believe, I'm a person of faith, and I believe that the opportunity that I had years ago when I first came to this country and we traveled back and forth, the opportunity that I had was God and my parents' gift to me. And what I do with that opportunity is my gift back, both to God and to my parents. And there's no greater thank you than maximizing the thing. And so I can tell you this, that a lot of times people ask me, why would you say something as crazy as you're going to win the Aspen? Because I can tell you this, that my father, who worked in a factory, and my mother, who cleaned hotel rooms, my father taught me from a very early age, if someone gives you a broom to sweep a room, you show them how a room is meant to be swept. When you get an opportunity, you remember that you are not just carrying your legacy and the things of yourself, but you're carrying our legacy. You are the example. There have been rooms where I've been the only Hispanic person, period. There have been rooms, I went to law school in central Indiana, folks. I have walked across cornfields to get to law school. And so I can tell you that I carry not only just the legacy of my parents, but the legacy and trust, because I'm a trustee of all of the people and all of the professors and the administrators and everyone who dreamed that one day there would be a Latino chancellor at this institution. And so when I became the chancellor, I said, not only am I going to become the chancellor, I'm going to become el chancellor, because I may be the fifth, pero soy el primero. And so, yes, thank you. And so I looked around and I said, what is the craziest thing that I could do to show people that I'm not content with just becoming the chancellor? And I said, all right, it looks like this Aspen thing's really hard to win. And I publicly declared it. We're going to try to win the Aspen. And when I say try, let me just tell you this. We're going to do it. I just don't know how long it's going to take. Right? But I can say that that is my number one mission in life. And it's not to win an award per se. Let me tell you why I want to win the Aspen. The Aspen is given to the college that does the most for its students. It has the highest graduation rates, the highest completion rates. It is the very foundational thing, because the goal of this institution is to be the bridge between where our students are and where they want to be. And that Aspen means that the bridge between those two things is as strong as it could ever be. It is the strongest in the country. And so when I hang them up, which one day, as I've said before, one day I will no longer be the chancellor of this institution. But when I hang it up, I want people to say, that man, like, he tried everything he could to better the lives of the students at that institution. And even if one day, perhaps, we don't win the Aspen, it will not be for lack of effort, it will not be for fear, and it will not be for fear of daring greatly. I can tell you that, you know, one of the things that I've avoided is owning this book. I actually don't own a copy of it. So for those of you who know, when you write a book, you get so sick and tired of it that you really don't even want to see it again. Like, honestly, like, some of these graphs, like, when I look at them, I'm like, man, I remember that took me like 6 months. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to give you you want to talk about cocktail conversation, I'm going to give you a little inside scoop to this book. So it's about the Affordable Care Act. But one thing that is really remarkable about it that I made sure, because family is so important, which is one of the things that I was taught, is that nothing is más importante que tu familia. All the examples in this book, it's my family. Like, every single legal explanation, every single name in this book, that person is somehow related to me. And so as I wrote this book about something actually quite boring, the Affordable Care Act, I made sure to include in every single example that I used to try to explain this very complicated law, my family, because my family has been an instrumental part of my life. And so, yes, I grew up with not a whole lot of money, but I never really say that I grew up poor, because I grew up rich in traditions. I grew up with parents that loved me and wanted the very best for me, so much so that after 14 generations of Chihuahuenses, they left so that I could have this opportunity. And so I can tell you that, going back to what Professor Diaz said, I take that responsibility really, really greatly. And I remember what it was like for my parents to sit through my graduations and have no idea what was going on. And so when I became, actually before, and Professor Diaz will tell you, I told him even when I was still COO, I said, Prof, I think what we need to do next May, no matter how this chancellor thing shakes out, is we need to have an all Spanish graduation. And on May 18th at 10 a.m., we're going to have an all Spanish graduation. So if you don't speak Spanish, you are going to be lost. And so let me just tell you this, and then I will sit down. This is the last thought that I'll leave you with. One of the great things about Lone Star is that it really is, if we behave ourselves and act right, it is a culture of abundance. We are so blessed, and we have so many blessings at this institution. So it doesn't have to be us versus them. It doesn't have to be sort of divisive in that way. And I'll tell you that last Friday, when I announced this on an all-system forum, because I face everyone once a month. Everyone. And anyone can ask me any questions, and we record it. And it's called What's the Word on the Street? I mentioned this, and I mentioned it here. We have a culture of abundance. So if you're sitting there and you're saying, what about my group? I'm not a part of that group. Well, what about your group? Let's do it. Write me a proposal, and we will have a graduation that caters to your community. Because just because we celebrate Hispanic or Latino culture doesn't mean that we celebrate your culture or your heritage any less. There's enough performing arts centers at Lone Star College. There's enough days in the year where we can celebrate every single culture. Because again, the goal here is not to build something for someone and have everyone else be welcome. The goal is to build an institution that reflects its community and that's built with those folks in mind. So again, I really just want to thank you. I think I've mentioned this. I don't like being the center of attention, but I also know that there's a responsibility because people have to see me. And there's a lot of times when I talk to students that they ask me, they're like, what do you do here? I'm like, I'm the Chancellor. And then they ask, what's that? And then I ask them, I say, I'm asking myself the same question that a lot of times. But I'll tell you what my dad tells people very proudly. He doesn't know what Chancellor is. He doesn't know what Canciller is. But he says, mi hijo es el mero mero. And that's a pretty cool thing when you're the son of immigrants. So thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm so deeply touched, and I hope I live up to your expectations.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful that our leader brings that sort of wisdom, passion, and experience. So I got to ask y'all something. Lone Star College, are we going to win the Aspen? Are we going to win the Aspen? I love that. And I can't wait to see when the judges of the Aspen catch up to what we're doing. Because to me, we've been doing what they're looking for. Right? It just has not been shaped that way in their imagination just yet, but it's gonna, because we put students first. And as we introduce our own writers, including one of our student alums, I want to tell you how we put students first. Because here at Lone Star College, University Park, this is a beautiful facility. I really congratulate La Presidenta, your faculty and staff, the folks who envisioned this before her tenure, the fact that she's cultivated it. But if you have not had a tour, this is a beautiful facility built for students first. Because if you get to see behind the scenes, you see that the costume shop is not just for dilettante artists, of which I feel free to act like one sometimes, okay? It's also for the next generation of costume designers, artists, fashion designers to come in, to learn the field and put it into practice. If you go look at some of the rehearsal rooms, that's for folks that have the spotlight now and folks that are getting ready for their careers in the future. If you look at any of the spaces around here, it's not just for a big room for people come to sit and watch. It's for the next generation to learn, and that's what Lone Star College is about. And after our three writers today, I hope you're going to join us in sticking around for the next generation of visual artists, because there's also a visual arts exhibit outside. That's what we do day in and day out, and I can't wait till not just the Aspen, but everybody else in the country catches on to what we're doing. You guys ready for some writers? Our first writer is Daniel Mesa. He's a civic engagement specialist at Aldine ISD. He's a Lone Star College and University of Houston alumni and has worked in civic engagement, community outreach, and education for the last 7 years. I'm proud that he was one of the first students I had in my Mexican Literature course when I was teaching at Lone Star College, North Harris. And I'm so proud that he's used those skills, gives back to the community, and that's what we do on a daily basis. Please welcome Danny Mesa to share his work.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Y'all were not lying about the lights in your face. I'm not sure how y'all did this. Okay. Well, this is better, so I can't see your frowns and your negative reactions. I'm just kidding. Let me get set up here. I have two phones, and one is my work phone, one is my personal phone, and of course, everything is spread out everywhere. So let me get set up here. Well, I'm a product like Profe. I don't call him Tony either. I call him Profe because he was my professor at Lone Star College North Harris, coming up on 10 years almost. And like he mentioned, I'm a product of the Lone Star system. I'm very thankful and grateful to everything that Lone Star has been able to provide and help me, to create the life that I have now and to give back to the community, like Profe mentioned. So I'm a product, right, of this institution, but I'm also not just a product, but I'm also a creator, and I was able to find my way in that creation thanks to Profe, who was my Mexican American literature teacher in my first semester of Lone Star. So let me start with this. Both of my parents are immigrants. My mom is from El Salvador. Any Salvadoreños in here? Okay, one. Okay, a few. Okay, awesome. Thank you. And my dad is from Costa Rica. Any Costa Ricans in here? Pura vida. Oh, wow. Okay, amazing. Awesome, awesome. And well, they both came to this country to do, what immigrants come to do, right? Is to make better lives, not just for themselves, but for the next generation, and to contribute to a society that they believe that will value their contribution and that will maximize it. So my mother came from El Salvador during the Civil War, which I'm sure many of you, if you don't know about it, it's something that really traumatized my mother. She came here to this country when she was 14 years old in the 80s. And she actually never really opened up about her experience back home in El Salvador until just recently. And it's still, even when El Chancellor was up here speaking about his family and the connection he has with his family, I was really kind of getting emotional too, just reflecting back on the experiences that I've gone through with my family, and we continue to go through, right? It's always building, and we're always cultivating this relationship of our family, and it's something that we love so much. And I really do love my mom so much. So I actually wrote her a poem for her 50th birthday, and I know Mother's Day is coming up soon. And so I'm going to read that poem to y'all. But let me just say this, that the Civil War that my mom lived through and survived and was able to get out of to come here, and I'm a product of that as well. I'm a product of that Civil War that, it's not a secret that our country contributed to and funded and helped train, some of the people that committed these atrocities in El Salvador. So I'm just trying to give back to the community and to, Profe mentioned, I work in civic engagement, voter registration, education. So I am trying to open people's eyes to what has happened in the past. And our hope is that we stop doing these kinds of things and stop traumatizing people and forcing people out of their home countries and forcing them, we welcome them as always, but my hope is that they can have happy lives in their countries. So let me read you this poem that I wrote for my mom. She really liked it. Personally, I didn't think it was that good. I wrote it and I really was happy to give it to her. And so she actually cried when I gave it to her and read it to her. And she still has it to this day. Her 50th birthday was in September, and she still has it as her lock screen on her phone, which just, I don't know, it just surprised me because, like I said, I really did mean it. So, okay, it's in Spanish. Te escapaste de una guerra para entrar a otra. Ser mamá no es fácil, a veces te ahorca. A veces te angustia. A veces pienso que no te gusto por mis gustos raros. Pero se me ha quedado claro que no importa lo que yo haga, siempre me vas a querer. Entonces quiero decir gracias por ser mi mamá. Te amo. And I'm even getting emotional just reading it, right? Because I'm remembering whenever I read it to her in El Salvador for her 50th birthday, and it really did touch her in a way that My mom always gets emotional. She got emotional when I bought her a pair of shoes. So I bought her a pair of shoes. Mind you, there were some nice shoes, and she just started crying when I bought her shoes. And I was like, Mom, calm down, like wait till we get home. And, but she was really emotional. So I just love that about her. Let me switch over to what I do in the modern day. So I did graduate from Lone Star College, North Harris. Like I said, almost 10 years ago. I'm still in denial about that. But from there, I transferred over to University of Houston, main campus, central campus. No disrespect to UHD and the other campuses. I almost went to UHD, actually. But I did go to U of H, and I started majoring in English. And there was a few reasons why I wanted to major in English, profe being one of them. But after a semester of reading, no offense, after a semester of reading British literature and American literature up to the 1800s and that kind of stuff, I was like, no, this isn't what I'm interested in. And so I took a semester off, and I regrouped, and I came back, and I decided to major in political science with a minor in English. And I went through the courses. I took Latin American politics and different things that interested me and that really opened my eyes. Comparative politics really opened my eyes to what's going on in the world and the role that our country is playing in the world. And it's still something that I'm very attuned to this day. And sometimes it does cause me some disappointment and some grief, but I always try to kind of center myself. So I worked with the elections office in Harris County, the former elections office, because as some of you may know that the elections office no longer exists here in Harris County, but it's another story. So I worked with the elections office last year. I had been working there for about 2 years doing outreach. So almost every day going out into the community, trying to convince people to care about the community, to care about voting and to vote. And it does weigh on you, right? Because there's so many people that really don't care and that are apathetic, and you try your best to get them to care with your passion and with knowledge and with information and with facts and so many things that I would throw at them just for them to respond with, and I'll ask them, okay, so are you going to vote? And just for them to respond like, nah, I don't care still. So that ended up weighing on me, and it ended up contributing to burnout. And so what I ended up doing last year was I moved to Costa Rica to live with my cousins, and I packed everything up in a suitcase and a backpack, and I, moved all my stuff to Costa Rica, and I ended up renting a house there with my cousins for a few months. I moved back just a few months ago, and it really it instilled in me kind of, this is kind of a new age thing, maybe minimalism, right? And so it kind of made me really recognize it firsthand. What is minimalism? I have so many things, in my possession after so many years, and what will I take to Costa Rica to live off of that? And so that takes me to another poem, or that I wrote called Possessions. I wrote this for my creative writing class at U of H. This one is in English. What are possessions but the increasing of craving? A crater being developed just to be filled. The kid knew that his money he should be saving. He was so high, felt like he was on stilts. Stilted potential, yet his ambition was exponential. His thoughts were existential, yet he remained humble too. Didn't know what to do. Of his confusion, he was assured. His habit of hoarding seemed to him now absurd. He gave himself all he needed and never asked anything of anyone. Self-help, self-awareness, self-reliance, and self-gratification. He wasn't particularly fond of his society or his nation, yet he did everything society told him to, self-deprivation. And now the humor is self-deprecating, but is it humorous? Everything he was hungry for, he'd rather do later. Can't understand why now he wishes his life would end sooner. How could he have known being born in this kind of world is fatal? And that just kind of, when I wrote that, it just got me thinking of, what is this all for? I went to college not because I wanted to, but because that's what everybody told me to do. Yeah, go to college, get a 4-year degree, work in a corporate office, the rest and the rest and the rest. And I haven't followed that track. I've, hopped around from different organizations. Currently, I work at Aldine ISD as their civic engagement specialist. So we're implementing a civic engagement program in the school district, the first of its kind, actually. A lot of people have been very supportive of that mission. I've worked for Baker Ripley, doing census outreach. So I've never really been happy just doing one thing forever. I want to do several things, and I always want to give back to my community and discover what the best way is to give back to my community. So when I was 17 years old, I graduated from Spring High School, and I didn't have any plan. I graduated as a junior, so I graduated, from 11th grade. Like I said, I didn't have a plan. I took the ACT, I took the SAT, and I didn't apply to any colleges. I didn't apply to any scholarships. I know some of the faculty and staff are just kind of like, I can't see y'all, but I'm imagining y'all are shaking y'all's heads, right? Because, and I was a pretty decent student. I took AP and dual credit classes, and to be honest, high school was pretty easy for me, but I just didn't really have a plan, and I just didn't have anybody to guide me through all of that. But luckily, I did have a counselor at Spring High School who brought me into her office, and she kind of just sat me down and she slipped me a piece of paper and she just said, sign this. And I signed it without asking what it even was. And I asked her, what is this? And it was a $1,000 scholarship to go to Lone Star College North Harris. And honestly, if it wasn't for that, pretty much exactly 10 years ago, if it wasn't for that, maybe I would still be working at the Subway I was working at making sandwiches, or maybe I'd be doing something that, not to diminish, right, the contribution that those kinds of service workers give to our society, but I wouldn't be doing something that I'm passionate about, like what I'm doing now. So I'm very grateful to that counselor. And it's almost embarrassing because I can't exactly remember her name. I think her name was Miss Rhodes, but I wish I could see her again and just thank her for doing this for me. And I get to thank Profe every once in a while when I see him for whenever he asked me in his classroom, we were introducing ourselves, and he asked me if I was a reader or a writer or both. And I had always considered myself a reader. I love to read, but I had never, until he presented that question to me, I had never considered myself as a writer. And I do write, and I used to write, a lot more than I do now. But when he asked me that question, a little switch flicked in my brain, and I was like, oh, I write, and I like doing it, and I want to continue doing it. So I am a writer, right? That's, essentially all it takes to say that you're a writer. I don't have a book like some of these distinguished gentlemen, not yet, right? But I do have a lot of book ideas. And Prof, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I didn't do much writing while I was in Costa Rica, so I do owe you some of that. He texted me, he said, I'm excited to see what you come out with. But I'll finish up with my first, this is actually a song that I recorded, but I never released it. And this is the first one I ever wrote down, the first one I ever recorded when I was about 16, 17. And it's called Beginner's Luck. And I'll finish with this. My debut will leave you dubious, questioning many things from the nature of the universe. What you thought at first will not be endorsed by me. I had to wait till high school to discover all they wanted was to rule me, mold me. It was freshman year, and I learned of the power of fear to control the masses. Ever since then, my molasses has been able to grasp any concept. I got out of school a year early, not by dropping out, but something much easier on my future, stepping out with the diploma that proves I survived one of the most broken systems in the Texas U.S., and now I'm fighting not to get thrown into another broken system. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Danny. You will never disappoint me. We're all so proud of you. And I appreciate you sharing that writing. And it actually gives me an opportunity to remember something. I know I look British, but I'm not. However, when I was in high school and I took British literature, I loved it. Why do I bring it up? You don't have to be Mexican-American to take Mexican-American literature or Mexican-American history. It's wonderful that we offer it. And what I hope is that we create enough scholars so that in the near future, we do have Salvadoran American studies. We do have Salvadoran American literature, Costa Rican American literature, but we've got to build that base, and that's what we're doing. I say that because our next poet is actually a professor from this campus. It's Profesora Isis Fernandez from Kingwood, from Lone Star College, but she's at Kingwood. She is an internationally published writer and a former journalist. She's a graduate of Goddard's College MFA program and the University of Houston. Her Houston-based story, Happy Hunting, was published in the Houston Noir Anthology. Her latest collection of poetry, The Opposite of Breathing is Cement, is out now. I'm happy to let you know that when Nuestra Palabra launches its new webpage in June, look for that. We're going to make sure we've got extensive interviews with her, and that will be on there as well. And I'm so proud that she's actually an alum of Nuestra Palabra Latino Writers Having Their Say. And just like Rose, maybe her name is Miss Rose. We got to find out. Miss Rose did an act that maybe she doesn't know how it's had a ripple effect. We bring one poet to a reading and it unleashes something. And now we get to share her with Lone Star College. Please welcome a dear friend, a fantastic professor, and a brilliant poet, Isis.
Buenas tardes, familia. ¿Cómo estamos? Ánimo, ánimo. Okay. I'm so happy to be here, and I feel like this is a safe space to share some testimony, so I'm going to share some testimony. I, too, was a trio kid. I could not have gone on and passed anything at the University of Houston without trio. Let's just put that out there. Your girl's very bad at algebra. So that happened. But I'm also the proud daughter of immigrants. Mi mamá es de Guatemala. Mi papá es cubano, o era cubano. And my mom actually earned a living by being a custodian at a community college. So I won't tell you which one. It's not ours. I won't tell you which one, but it's very interesting because when she talks about what I do, she talks about she actually teaches in the classrooms that I would have to clean. So I'm just like, oh, Mom, don't make me cry. So it's really, really cool. All right, so you ready for some poetry? Okay, let's do it. So I'm going to talk about being half Cuban here. And in this particular poem, we're talking about some interesting things. We're talking about Fidel Castro, because every Cuban likes to talk about Fidel, even though he's been dead for a while. It's a thing. I don't know. I've inherited it, so it is. So it's an interesting thing. So what happened when Fidel died for all the Cubans who were exiled and their children now? Like, now what does it mean to be Cuban outside of Cuba? And so let's talk about it. I don't know how to be Cuban anymore. I wake in a haze to the death of Fidel. Like a fuse, he sets off bombs in my head, and I can't believe that it is finally over. I don't believe that there is a time after Fidel and after dictation from a dictator who ate before his people and called it love, called it patria o muerte. I wish Papi was alive to see this day, the way the people danced on Calle Ocho for my island, mi cubita querido, where the palm trees grow. I want Papi to be alive so that I can dance with him. Un guaguancó, una salsita con la Celia o el Benny on the stereo, to remind us of white roses as symbols of sincere brotherhood, and of ghosts of boleros kissed by nostalgias too many to count. I want to pluck the strings of el bajo, like in Maestro Cachao, and sing about gardeñas como Ibarín Ferrer. I want to celebrate for those who didn't see this day, who wanted to outlive, outlast, outrun the memories of leaving home and escaping into an everlasting exile. El malecón is in my mind's eye, and I say, soon, 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 like La Clave keeping time, soon, 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 counting down, soon, 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 beating into the heart of this exile's daughter, connecting the there to here, the past to the present, and soon it will be as it should. Libre, free, my Cuba, finally. Porque hoy se murió mala, yerba mala, and that requires for change to come like a goddess across the ocean. It requires joy at her funeral and dancing at a wake. It requires breathless contemplation. This is what we waited for. Like a promise almost broken, the relief is greater than the revolution, greater than him, than his legend, than his memory. I call my sister on the island. The line is clear, the clearest it's ever been. Gone are the crackles and pops of distance. Her voice is steady. Hermana, ¿cómo está todo? There is an excitement in my voice. She says, todo normal. I wonder if they are listening, if the celebration didn't travel those 90 miles yet. I wonder if they are watching. In Havana, there are eyes on street corners and ears in the walls for the careless. But she is not whispering. But there is no hesitation. There is mourning. It is sad here, sister. It is all over the television, she says. It is not sad here, I tell her. It is all over the television. Are they celebrating, she asks me. With song and dance and banging of pots, I reply. Ay, mi madre, she gasps. They have said his name next to death, sister, and this time it has stayed. But he was all we knew. Her words are stones in my stomach, and I sink into the couch, into my contemplated guilt, searching memories. I wonder who taught me to hate a man I did not know, who I have only seen through the foggy lens of exiles. I have known enough about Fidel to know enough about Fidel to make him the center of my Cuban burden, to wish the wish of freedom for my complicated nostalgia. I know him through textbooks and documentaries, gossips and stories of the nights his barbudos marched into Havana and Papi managed to steal a sack of flour. I hated a man to his grave because I was supposed to, because that's what Cubans do. Hating Fidel was our pastime, how we made exile bearable, comfortable, tolerable. Cuando se muere Fidel, we said on nights we celebrated birthdays and anniversaries. Cuando se muere Fidel, we said at parties and weddings. Cuando se muere Fidel, we whispered in babies' ears and at holy communions. But no one told the daughter of this exile what happens after. What am I supposed to feel about this thing every exile has wanted, had waited for, and every offspring of an exile has taken as their birthright when death came for those who left the island in the middle of nights on planes or inner tubes or with stolen visas? How am I supposed to reconcile this cross inherited from Papi and Tío Mario? How am I supposed to acknowledge that this is happening? To admit that after all these years, I don't know how to be Cuban because Fidel was all I knew to. Thank you.
Thank you, Isis. Y'all have been a fantastic audience. I want to applaud you as the audience. You've been a fantastic audience. And we have one final writer who's actually from this campus. Professor Roger Rodriguez is from University Park. He's the recipient of an International Latino Book Award and the Silver Book Fest Award for The Long Way to Mexico. He's received several additional writing awards and has been featured on the Discovery Channel, as well as had his work translated into German, Italian, and French editions. Later, Roger edited A Father's Dream, a book written by legendary Abraham Quintanilla the father of La Mera Mera Tejana artist Selena. Please welcome to his home. This is Beckett. Roger.
Thank you, appreciate it. So my name is Roger Rodriguez. I'm not gonna read from my book. I decided not to because the information is kind of graphic. It's about a child trafficker, Elsa Cuellar in Laredo, Texas. And she did some pretty horrible things, so didn't make for great reading. One of the things that people ask me is, how did she get away with this? How did she get away with this for so long? And the best answer I have is the complexity of our culture. You'd be hard pressed to find 10 scholars who agree with how to define what a Latino is, or a Hispanic, Mexican American, Chicano, Tejano. And you know what? I get it. I was quite confused myself. I grew up here in Denver Harbor, and I thought I was, pretty Mexican. My mom made refried beans with every dish. Even with pancakes, I was like, my dad, tortilla de harinas with spaghetti, which was gross. I mean, my mom used the oven to store pots and pans, and, I felt pretty Mexican, But then, in 1986, when I was 15, we moved to Laredo, Texas. I realized how Mexican I was not. So, I get to class and then we have a new student today. And, it's like, can you introduce yourself? Yeah, I'm Roger Rodriguez from Houston. Little girl next to me, she goes, it's Rodriguez. I'm like, Hector over there, this chubby guy was like, Simone said it's Rodriguez. I was okay, I'm sorry. Dang, man, I didn't mean to upset you guys. But the biggest culture shock, and this was the biggest culture shock, was during lunchtime. The teacher was like, just follow the crowd, if you don't know, where to go eat. So I followed the crowd. The school didn't have a cafeteria. There was like this long line of food trucks right outside the school. Now, this was in the 80s, guys. This was way before this current food truck fad. And the food trucks wasn't the problem. It's what they were serving, okay? Flaming hot Cheetos with cheese, pickle juice, and lime. And man, that's gross. Like, what is this, Corn in the cups, mayonnaise, chili, cheese, and stuff that moves in. It looked like somebody had already eaten it when you got it. It was like, it was crazy. Ice with pickle juice, something called chamoy, I remember my first crush, I said, oh my God, she's so cute. And then one day she smiled, she had chamoy on her teeth and her lips. That interest ended very quickly. So, I started getting, a little, I felt out of place. I felt sad. The teachers would complain about attendance, and I'd be like, have you seen how your students eat? There's going to be absences, So, I started getting a little bit sad, a little bit depressed. And but that same guy, that same Hector who sat in that corner, that chubby guy who told me, yeah, it's Rodriguez, man. He kind of made me feel better. He goes, hey, man, how come you stopped hanging out? I said, I don't know, man. I just feel so out of place, man. I don't, feel like I'm in touch with my culture. And he goes, nah, you are, man. He goes, we all are, man. It's just the border culture is so different, but you're Mexican, man. And I was like, how do you know? He was like, well, when your parents told you they would take you to the zoo, was it really a Petco? And I was like, yeah. I like, yeah. Honestly, guys, I didn't know what a monkey looked like till I was 35. I used to think they were just small, hairy people, And then, no, man, do you have at least one cousin in prison? Oh, yeah. And my dad and 2 uncles and my brother. Oh, yeah, no, you're real Mexican, man. Yeah. When your dad used to spank you, would he actually tell you to go get the belt? And he would. My dad, tráeme la faja, and then here we come with the belt. Here you go, Dad. One time he got careless and generally asked me to get him something to hit me with, so I took him a pillow. But then he tried to smother me with it, so it didn't work. So Elsa Cuellar, and I'll cut it short, guys. I've been told that we're over time, so I'll cut this short. I'll end with this. Elsa Cuellar took the complexities of our culture and used it to her advantage. Because so many of the symptoms of child trafficking mimic the symptoms of the poverty and the situation and the social status of many of the Latinos living across the border, they're so parallel, they're so similar that trafficked children can just go right under the radar with it. And that's what Elsa Cuellar did. Our culture is complicated, but we have choices. We can either succumb to the evils of it or overcome those complexities and do things like what Mario Castillo is doing, these fine authors. So thank you so much, guys. Hope you get the book. Enjoy the documentary in 2025. Thank you.
Thank you so much for rounding us out. And I've been very happy to serve as your master of ceremonies. I'm going to give the stage now to Professora Carrie Brettigam, who's going to tell you more about the exhibit coming up next. So we do want you to stick around because there'll be some food. And then, of course, we're so proud that there's an exhibit of visual arts. And I'm going to ask Carrie to come up. She's a professor here at Lone Star College, University Park. And I think she's one of the organizers as well. I remember her on the Zoom talk, so it's nice to meet some of the team members in person. Round of applause, por favorcito.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I would like to invite you to stick around for our reception for the 7th annual Juried Student Art Show. At 2 p.m., our juror, Toto, is going to be giving a talk in the Black Box Theater, which is right next to the art gallery. Toto is a Cuban-Guatemalan artist from LA who now resides in Houston. He specializes in large-scale projects using both oil and acrylic. Through his paintings, he aims to make the majority white-dominated art world more accessible to minorities. So Toto will be talking about his artwork, doing a presentation on his paintings, and at the conclusion of that presentation, we will be announcing the student award winners from the Juried Art Show. The reception will continue until 4. Toto will be around to chat with people, answer questions. The student artists will also be present, and we'll have some refreshments. So thank you.